Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whippet, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Gale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Laurie from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
My guest at this time is a very talented musician who's going to have his first debut solo album out called Dreams of a Middle-Aged Man. He's been in rock bands for many, many years, has worked with many, many albums, but this is his first solo debut. The album, like I said, December 18th is when it comes out. And also, the first single off the album, Poison Woman, it will be out on there as well. We got Mauri Dark on with us right now. How are you doing, Mauri?
I'm great. How are you?
How are things out in Finland right now? I mean, you know, kind of with everything going on.
Well, they're all right. The COVID madness is going on. We're a bit behind on that, and so the second wave is starting to look bad in Finland too. Is
it still kind of looking like Christmas out there though? You know, I mean, it's obviously out here we're starting to get in that Christmas spirit, but how is it out there in Finland?
Yeah, the Christmas thing is starting, definitely. But we're still waiting for the snow.
Yeah, I mean, out here, I mean, it's been relatively mild. I just interviewed somebody from Chicago out here, and they haven't, I mean, they're in the 50s, so they haven't had their snow yet either. So it's been kind of mild so far. So we haven't quite made it to winter yet. We're still in kind of early fall kind of thing. So it's kind of crazy. You know, let's talk a little bit about, you know, how you got started. I mean, you know, tell me a little bit about how you got into music when you were younger.
Well, I was about 7 or 8 when I started playing drums. And I think the first thing that got me started was Kiss with their makeups and rock music. And it was really like appealing to a young kid.
And, you know, why the drums? Why the decision to try drums first?
I don't know. I have started bouncing all my mother's kettles and so on. So they were the loudest instrument available. So that's why.
There seems to be a very huge, you know, scene in terms of metal out there in Europe, especially. You know, they have always those big, huge rock festivals over in Germany as well. I mean, how was it for you, you know, going through and having gone out the rock and the metal angle out there in Europe?
Yeah, there's a joke that every other Finnish guy has a metal band, and it's not far from the truth. So there are a lot of metal bands in here. But my background is also in metal music. I have made 5 albums with metal duo Mystons. So, but the scene is still pretty good here.
Yeah, yeah, I was going to mention that, I hear quite a few metal bands out here. I've got a couple friends that are hugely into it, and a lot of them, do reference Scandinavia a lot. So I would assume that, quite a few of them are successful. It seems to be that kind of where it's still alive and kicking out here. I mean, we have a lot of pop music. We don't have as many metal or rock bands, true metal or rock bands out here anymore in the United States. So it's, it's kind of interesting to see, the kind of that the bands are staying alive, out there in the European realm of things. I mean, how's it for you, for bands out there to be able to tour and to be able to go to clubs or be able to perform? Obviously, before COVID, I mean, are there plenty of rock clubs out there in Finland? I'm assuming there is.
Well, it has gotten worse. There are a lot less places to perform these days, like how it was like 5 years ago. So there's definitely some trouble in getting people to go to gigs in here as well. But there are still a lot of opportunities, and even tour in the Baltic and in Europe, and there are a lot of places if you find them.
About how many instruments do you play?
Well, I haven't counted, but I don't know where you count how many instruments I play. I play some of them really bad and some of them okay and some of them good. So, but my main instruments are drums and guitar and vocals, and I play some piano if I need to, and bass and things like that as well.
I'm assuming with the piano, it helps you write. Sometimes you have to, a piano might be a little bit easier to write a melody or write something really, really quick versus a guitar. I mean, it seems like that's the situation. Is that correct?
Yeah, piano is good with the melodies, and it's really good instrument to put like additional things to an album or a song.
Let's talk a little bit about your process in terms of your writing. I mean, is it a situation where you sometimes get the melody first and the playing first, then write the lyrics? Do you write the lyrics first, or is it just something that ends up happening however it happens?
Well, usually when I write, some lyrics come to mind, but usually I can't make a song if I make the lyrics first for it. So it's almost always the case that I play guitar and a song draft comes out, and after that I polish the lyrics quite a lot, and I wake up in the middle of the night and write some lines and then fall asleep again, and it's like ongoing process, and they like bother you all the time, the songs, so you really have to decide when it's the time to let yourself do the songs, because they like take over your life in that position.
And with that in mind, I mean, coming into this solo album, were there songs that maybe you've had on the back burner for the past couple of years, or maybe even past decade, that you've ever had the opportunity to be able to put on an album, and finally you have the opportunity to?
Relatively new songs. I think the first one I made about 2016, 2017, and I had a lot of things going on in my life. I broke up from my girlfriend for 7 years relationship, and my mother died, and then I got married and got my firstborn daughter, so a lot of things happened, so these kind of songs just started coming then, so I decided to make an album of them.
I mean, that's very inspirational to be able to kind of put down your thoughts, and with that in mind, when writing this album, one of the things that I've asked musicians this year is the fact that track order is very important, where you want to listen to certain tracks and all that as well. Obviously, this thing is a little bit more of a story, or a little bit more about your experiences as well. When it came to track order, what were some of your thought processes in that?
Well, first I have to thank you for noticing the track order, because it's like people usually don't notice it. It's a very important part of an album, and usually it's a very painful process to find the right order, but they like align in the end. But this album, it kind of came naturally on this one. I put them in specific order for recording in the recording program, and that was the end order of the songs. And it's kind of a sort of what happened in time. The first song is the first one made, and so on. So they make a story, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a journey, and your journey in particular that's being covered in this album. So, it's always interesting to kind of see that. A lot of people nowadays don't remember having to listen through a cassette tape or maybe even an album and just putting on the needle or putting it in the deck and just listening from the beginning to the end. Nowadays, we're so used to just skipping to a certain song or anything like that, and sometimes even not even having a whole album, just having a single. It's a journey, to be able to do that. I think it's a really lost art form, especially with the millennials nowadays, not to listen to a album from the first track all the way to the last track in order. So it's great to be able to hear that that tradition's coming alive in your album.
Yeah, I grew up with albums, and I only listen to albums. I don't like listening to separate tracks, so they are very important, the track order and the whole album, because that's how the artist thought that it would be listened, mostly, I think.
One question I like to ask a lot of musicians is about how many guitars do you own?
Well, it's an on and off going process. Sometimes I have more of them and sometimes I have less, but if I start counting now, I'm in the studio now, I got like 3 acoustic guitars and 2 electric guitars. But I've gone through a lot of guitars and finding the right ones.
Yeah, I know that's an important process. Certain guitars have a certain feeling, certain sound to them as well. I know performing on stage, you have to sometimes have 2 or 3 different guitars over the night. I'm pretty sure up in Finland, there's bringing in a cool guitar into a club before it packs up with a bunch of people, and then suddenly with a bunch of people in a very small room, then obviously the warmth kind of changes how a guitar sounds, or how the strings are or whatever. So sometimes you have to kind of adjust accordingly, as it were, and especially if you have an intermission. So I know how important that is as well. And I mean, and also that the fact that the guitars themselves have a different sound. I mean, with the guitars over the years that you've had and the current ones you have now, I mean, is it a process sometimes where a certain guitar has a certain sound, and you kind of almost grow past it, or you go into a different direction and you have to kind of switch out the guitars, or you find something maybe cool that you have in a shop or somewhere, and you say, I have to have the guitar, and maybe get rid of one just to have a different one in your set.
Yeah, that's pretty much the process. You kind of grow out of some guitars at some point when you had them long enough, and then you start to search for something different. But I mainly have grown up to be a Gibson man now, so the main guitars I've had quite long, but the acoustic ones actually are quite new, and I have kind of tuned them down to B, so it's a baritone guitar tuning, so it's very different sounding from normal acoustic guitar sound.
I mean, as a musician, you evolve as a person, and you got this new album out right now, which I think is, I don't want to say a stark contrast, but it definitely is a different sounding than what maybe you've had in terms of other albums in the past. Tell me a little bit about kind of that maturing of an artist from where you were then to where you are now, and kind of where your where your voice has gone from maybe when you were younger to your current place right now.
My voice has has gone lower a lot. I used to sing quite a lot higher, and in the metal duo thing, I also screamed quite loud and sing as loud as I can. And now when I made this album, is actually like singing as quiet as I can, and being in a room with an acoustic guitar, so it's really, really bare. You can't hide behind a wall of fuzz or anything. So there's been a lot of involvement. I played all kinds of music, and every music I have played